The room wasn't ready. Nobody was. One moment, the policy forum was unfolding with its usual political choreography, polished smiles, stiff applause, carefully rehearsed lines. Then Gavin Newsom leaned toward the mic, eyes sharp as glass, and detonated the night with just 6 words. Pete Hegseth is simply not qualified. A gasp rippled through the auditorium like a shockwave. Cameras jerked into focus. Staffers froze mid-stride. Even the moderator blinked twice, unsure whether to intervene or let the explosion burn through the room. But Newsom didn't stop. Oh no, he doubled down. He's inexperienced, reckless, and wholly unfit for national security leadership. America deserves competence, not cable show theatrics dressed up as policy. Instant electricity. People in the front row exchanged looks that screamed, did he really just say that? Pete Hegseth, seated just a few feet away, shifted, but didn't speak. His jaw locked tight. His hands tightened on the armrests. It was the kind of silence that said more than any outburst ever could. And then came the moment that would replay across every screen in America. From the wings of the stage, someone stood. Not a staffer. Not a reporter. But former President Donald J. Trump himself, unexpected, unannounced, and clearly done with the narrative unfolding without him. The entire room whipped toward him like iron to a magnet. Trump adjusted his tie, stepped forward, and said in a tone colder than a courtroom verdict. Newsom, you're attacking a man with more courage in his little finger than you've shown in your entire career. Murmurs exploded. Phones shot into the air. The moderator tried to regain control, but the moment was already viral. Trump took one more step forward, pointing directly at Newsom. You just made the biggest mistake of your campaign. The crowd erupted, half cheers, half panic. Nobody realized it yet, but this was only the beginning. Because what Trump said next would flip the entire night upside down, and leave Newsom wishing he had never opened that microphone. Trump didn't wait for permission. He strode directly onto the stage, brushing past the stunned moderator as if the event now belonged to him alone. The audience leaned forward, sensing they were witnessing the kind of unscripted political collision that careers do not survive. He lifted a finger toward Newsom. Slow, deliberate, theatrical. Unqualified? Trump repeated, letting the word hang like a threat. You want to talk about unqualified? You're the governor who can't even run his own state without people fleeing it. A low roar rippled across the room. Hegseth sat frozen, eyes darting between the two men as if watching two storms collide. Trump pressed on. Pete Hegseth has served this country, something you wouldn't understand unless it came with a camera crew and a stylist. The jab landed hard. Newsom's jaw tightened, but he forced a cool smile, the kind that said I won't give you the satisfaction. Trump stepped closer. Too close. Close enough that every camera zoomed in and every viewer at home felt tension coil around their throat. You want to humiliate him on live TV? Trump said. Then let's be honest, your real problem isn't Pete. It's that every room you walk into, there's someone more respected than you. Gasps. Shocked laughter. A murmur that spread like wildfire. Newsom finally spoke, low and controlled. Are you finished? Trump smirked. Not even close. He turned to the audience, lifting his hands dramatically. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when a failing politician tries to score points. He picks on a veteran because he can't win on results. The moderator tried to step in, but the crowd drowned him out. This wasn't a forum anymore. It was a political brawl broadcast to millions. And Trump had just stolen the spotlight so completely that Newsom's attack on Hegseth was no longer the headline. The headline was now Trump versus Newsom, war on stage. For a moment, Newsom stood still, too still. The crowd waited, expecting him to swallow the humiliation, shift the topic, or retreat into politician-safe language. Instead, he leaned into the mic with a calm so sharp it felt surgical. "Donald," he said, voice steady, "you don't get to lecture anyone about respect or qualifications. Not after the circus you left behind." The room snapped into silence. Even Trump blinked. Newsom continued, eyes locked on Trump like he'd been waiting years for this exact moment. "You want to talk about service? Pete has his record, sure. But being a soldier doesn't make you an expert on diplomacy or national security. It makes you a soldier. And you turning him into a political shield doesn't make him qualified." A collective gasp spread through the audience. Hegseth stiffened. This time the blow had landed directly on him. Newsom wasn't finished. He leaned forward, lowering his voice into something colder. "And let's be honest, half the reason Pete is on your stage, Donald, is because he repeats whatever you tell him. Loyalty is not qualification." Trump's face flushed, just enough for the cameras to catch it. Commentators online were already typing furiously. Newsom struck again. "This country doesn't need cable show nationalism. It needs competence. It needs people who can think for themselves. Not your echo chamber. Not your puppets." The word puppets detonated. People in the front row whispered, some nodding, some shocked, some thrilled to see someone finally swing back with equal force. Trump stepped forward, but Newsom cut him off. "You walked on this stage to protect your brand. Not Pete. Not America." For the first time all night, Trump hesitated. It lasted only half a second. But it was long enough for millions watching to feel it. Newsom straightened his suit, calm and collected. "You said I made the biggest mistake of my campaign," he said softly. "But you just made yours." The moderator's jaw dropped. Hegseth looked stunned. And Trump? Well, Trump was no longer smirking. The battle had shifted. The room had felt it. America had felt it. And the next strike would be the one that sent the night spiraling out of control. For the first time that night, Pete Hegseth's composure cracked, and when it did, it cracked loud enough to shake the room. He slammed his hand on the table, startling even the moderator. Cameras whipped toward him as he leaned forward, eyes blazing. "I'm nobody's puppet," he shot back, voice trembling with anger. "And I don't need your approval to serve this country. I've faced enemies you only read about in briefings." The crowd stirred, half sympathetic, half unsure. Newsom didn't react, which only fueled Hegseth more. "You sit there in your perfect suit," Hegseth continued, "judging anyone who doesn't fit your polished version of patriotism. But while you were filming campaign ads, real people were bleeding for the flag you use as a backdrop." A murmur spread. Trump watched, arms crossed, eyes cold, calculating. He wasn't interrupting anymore. He was letting Hegseth burn through the stage like a torch dropped in gasoline. Hegseth pointed directly at Newsom. "You call me unqualified? Say it again. Look me in the eye this time." The moderator tried to intervene, but the tension drowned him out. Newsom finally spoke, quiet, controlled. "I didn't question your service, Pete. I questioned your readiness to lead." Hegseth scoffed loudly. "That's rich, coming from a man who runs a state people are fleeing like it's on fire." That landed. The crowd reacted instantly, gasps, whispers, a few cheers. Then Newsom delivered a line that sliced the air clean in half. "People flee crises. Not leaders. And right now, you're proving exactly why you're not ready." The room froze again. Trump's expression hardened, he sensed momentum shifting back toward Newsom, and he didn't like it. He stepped forward abruptly, cutting between the two men. "You don't get to insult my people," Trump barked. "Not him, not anyone who stands with me." But Newsom simply raised an eyebrow. "I'm not insulting your people," Donald, he said calmly. I'm questioning your judgment. A low hiss of shock rippled through the room. Hegseth stepped back, chest rising and falling with anger. Trump clenched his jaw. The moderator, voice shaking, finally managed. We need to bring this back to policy. But policy was gone. Respect was gone. Control was gone. And the night was about to spiral even further. Because Trump was preparing a personal attack that would push the forum past the point of return. Trump inhaled sharply, the kind of breath he takes right before dropping a line meant to bruise. The moderator sensed it, the audience sensed it, even Hegseth sensed it, but nobody moved quickly enough to stop what came next. Trump pointed straight at Newsom, his voice rising with that unmistakable rally cadence. You want to talk about judgment? You can't even keep your own house, your own state, your own family, in order. A collective gasp exploded through the auditorium. That wasn't policy. That wasn't critique. That was personal. And everyone knew exactly what he was referencing. Newsom's expression didn't shift, but the air around him tightened, like the calm before a storm that splits the sky. Trump pressed on, sensing blood. You stand here pretending to be the adult in the room, he growled, but you're a walking headline machine. You preach leadership, stability, integrity. But the people who know you best don't even buy it. Camera shutters clicked wildly. The moderator froze. Hegseth looked down, uncomfortable now. Trump's attack had jumped the rails. Trump stepped closer. Much closer. You want to lecture Pete on discipline? On service? On being worthy to lead this country? He leaned in, voice dripping with venom. You're not worthy of leading anything. It was brutal. Too brutal. The room felt it instantly, like the temperature had dropped 10 degrees. And yet Newsom did not blink. Not once. He straightened his posture, folded his hands, and let the silence stretch long enough for America to lean closer to their screens. Then, with a calm that cut deeper than any shout could, Newsom spoke. Donald, every time you feel cornered, you attack people's families, their dignity, their humanity. That's not strength. That's insecurity. A wave of murmurs rippled through the audience. Trump's jaw tightened, but Newsom continued, voice steady as steel. A real leader lifts people up. You tear them down. Because tearing down is the only thing you've ever been good at. The line hit like a hammer. Hegseth looked stunned. Trump's face flushed with anger he could no longer hide. The moderator attempted a lifeline, let's shift topics. But it was too late. The clash wasn't political anymore. It was personal warfare, broadcast to the entire nation. And the country hadn't yet seen the moment that would define the night. The moment when Newsom would drop a line so sharp, so unexpected, it would become the headline for days. The moderator tried to regain control, but the room was locked on Newsom. His calmness created a tension sharper than any shout. He placed both hands on the podium and spoke with steady precision. My point about Pete wasn't personal, he said. It was about readiness and responsibility. Hegseth shifted but stayed silent. The tone in the room changed, less chaotic, more focused. Newsom continued, still composed. Disagreement is part of democracy. But turning every debate into a personal feud helps no one. Trump's expression tightened, though he didn't interrupt. Newsom kept the pressure subtle but direct. Leadership isn't about volume. It's about control under stress. The implication settled heavily. Cameras zoomed in. Even those who supported Trump earlier were watching differently now, curious, uncertain. Hegseth finally asked, so staying calm makes you right? Newsom answered calmly. No. But facts matter. And qualifications matter when national decisions are on the line. Hegseth didn't fire back. The audience sensed the shift. Trump's momentum had slowed, and Newsom's restraint had become its own kind of power. Newsom ended simply. "We can disagree without turning each other into enemies." The line was clean, controlled, and disarming. It didn't spark chaos. But it changed the atmosphere. Before the moderator could move on, Trump stepped forward again. His voice was lower now, controlled in a different way. Everyone braced. Round 2 was coming. Trump stepped forward slowly, this time without raising his voice. But the room felt the shift instantly. His tone was controlled, almost measured, yet everyone sensed the force behind it. "Gavin," he said, "calm doesn't mean capable. You talk about leadership, but your state is struggling. People deserve honesty about that." A few nods came from the audience. It wasn't an applause line, but it landed. Newsom didn't react, which seemed to frustrate Trump even more. Trump continued. "You're trying to sound above the fight. But you started it. You called Pete unqualified on national television. Own that." Hegseth straightened, grateful for the defense but cautious after earlier escalation. Newsom finally spoke, quietly. "I did own it. I explained it." That simple reply stalled Trump for a beat. He clearly expected a fight, not composure. Trump attempted a different angle. "America needs strength, not lectures. People who act, not people who pose." It was a familiar line, but the energy in the room didn't fully rise with it. The crowd was still processing Newsom's previous calm. The moderator stepped in, sensing an opening. "Let's move to the next question." But Trump raised a hand slightly, stopping him. "I'm not done." The room tensed again. Trump looked at Newsom and delivered a line meant to reclaim control. "If you think you can lead this country better than the people on this stage, then show it. Don't hide behind polished sentences." Newsom met his stare without blinking. "Leadership isn't proven by shouting, Donald." A soft reaction rippled through the crowd. Small, but noticeable. For the first time, Trump hesitated. Not because he lacked a comeback. But because Newsom wasn't playing the game he expected. The tension didn't explode this time. It thickened. Held. Waited. And the next question. A question about national responsibility. Would push the confrontation into its sharpest moment yet. Trump stepped forward again, but this time the room wasn't leaning toward him, it was bracing. His tone was cold, clipped, trying to reclaim control he no longer fully held. "You talk about calm," Trump said, staring down Newsom, "but calm doesn't fix a country. Strength does." A few supporters clapped, but it sounded scattered, unsure. Newsom didn't react. That only irritated Trump more. He raised his voice, not shouting, but sharp. "People don't want lectures from politicians who can't even manage their own backyard." The line should have landed. But it didn't. Something in the air was different now. People weren't reacting the same way. The crowd felt tired of the personal attacks. Trump noticed. His eyes shifted, scanning the room, sensing the subtle drop in energy. Hegseth looked uneasy too, as if realizing this wasn't the moment to press harder. Then Newsom spoke, soft, controlled. "Strength isn't measured by how quickly you attack. It's measured by how you handle disagreement." The crowd murmured in approval. A few even clapped, small, but real. Trump's jaw tightened. He tried again, stepping closer. "America needs fighters, not philosophers." Newsom replied instantly, calm but firm. "America needs leaders who don't fall apart when challenged." That line hit. Clean. Quiet. Devastating. For the first time, Trump hesitated. Just a flicker, but enough for every camera to catch it. The moderator seized the opening. Let's move to closing remarks. But the room had already decided whose words carried weight. This debate wasn't ending because time was up. It was ending because the momentum had shifted beyond repair. And both men knew it. By the next morning, the fallout had already begun. Clips of the confrontation spread across every platform: Newsom's calm, Trump's aggression, Hegseth's frustration. But it wasn't the shouting that caught America's attention. It was the contrast. Newsom's composed line, "We can disagree without becoming enemies," became the most replayed moment of the night. Commentators on both sides analyzed it non-stop. Some praised Trump for showing strength, while others argued he'd crossed into unnecessary hostility. Meanwhile, undecided viewers seemed drawn to the one person who hadn't lost control. Polls began shifting. Not drastically, yet noticeably. A small percentage of independent voters marked Newsom as steady, disciplined, and, surprisingly, presidential. For Hegseth, the reaction was mixed. Supporters applauded his passion, but many viewers felt he had been pulled into a fight that wasn't his to win. Online comments read, "He looked caught in the middle. He didn't need Trump rescuing him." But the real storm landed on Trump. A slowed-down clip of him stepping onto the stage went viral with the caption, "When the boss fights your battles for you." Another clip, Newsom standing silent while Trump attacked, was labeled, "Calm versus Chaos." By noon, hashtags trended nationwide. Hashtag Newsom moment. Hashtag Hegseth debate. Hashtag Trump interruption. Inside campaign headquarters, advisors scrambled. Control the narrative. Push the weak leadership angle. Release a statement emphasizing Pete's service. But the videos spoke louder than any statement. People didn't remember policy points. They remembered tone. And America, whether cheering or criticizing, was now firmly leaning into one simple question. Who looked like a leader last night? The man who shouted? Or the man who didn't flinch? The answer depended on who you asked. But everyone agreed on one thing. This moment would follow all three men far beyond that stage. By the next morning, the forum clash had already broken out of political circles and spilled into every corner of American life. News clips replayed the exchange non-stop, each outlet slowing down the same 5 seconds, Trump's flare of anger, Newsom's calm stare, Hegseth caught between pride and shock. Social media turned the moment into a national verdict. One clip caption read, "This is what composure looks like when pressure hits." Another showed Trump pointing aggressively, paired with leadership or insecurity. Pollsters moved fast. A flash survey revealed something campaigns dread. Voters weren't just reacting to what was said. They were reacting to how it was said. Newsom gained support among independents for his restraint. Hegseth earned sympathy from some viewers. Trump's numbers dipped, not dramatically, but noticeably. Meanwhile, late-night hosts opened with jokes that stung more like commentary than comedy. Trump walked onto that stage like he was saving Pete, one joked. And walked off looking like he needed saving himself. In diners, student lounges, office break rooms, the same question echoed. Who actually looked like the leader? Back in Sacramento, Newsom sat with his advisors. One showed him a trending headline. Calm versus chaos, voters say Newsom won the night. Newsom didn't smile. But he exhaled, slow and steady. He knew public opinion could turn as quickly as it arrived. But for now, the nation had seen something he'd been trying to show for years. His ability to stay composed even when pushed to the edge. Trump, meanwhile, paced inside his headquarters. Staffers avoided eye contact. He replayed the moment where Newsom didn't flinch. And it irritated him more every time. "This isn't over," he muttered. And everyone in the room understood. He meant it. America had chosen sides for the night. But the war of narratives had only just begun.